I mean, there's only one faith, for example, that kills you or wants to kill you if you draw a bad cartoon of the prophet. There's only one faith that kills you or wants to kill you if you renounce the faith. An ex-Muslim is a very dangerous thing.
No, Bill, that's actually incorrect. There have been incidents where Christians were upset of how Jesus was portrayed in a movie and also in a play. For example, there was this movie that was made called Color of the Cross, in which the cast was an African-American or Black American cast. Jesus was portrayed by a black actor, the disciples were black, and the producer, director of the movie, who actually played the part of Jesus himself, he received death threats. And the movie was not insulting. It was not meant to be insulting. He just had Jesus portrayed as a black man, and he received death threats for that.
Alright, well, here you see the article from MTV News Top Stories. It says, filmmaker behind first Black Jesus movie says threats are part of the job. The article is by Larry Carroll. And here we see we highlighted the part at the beginning of the article. It says, if you want to create a controversy, telling people that everything they know about their Messiah is a lie seems like a good place to start. It's also a good way to get yourself killed. Maher says, we've gotten threats, said filmmaker under siege Jean-Claude Maher, offering a preview of his eyebrow-raising fall film, Color of the Cross. He says, if you log on to our website, you will see white supremacist groups have attacked and threatened us. And of course, as you know, many of these white supremacist groups are indeed Christian groups. You go to Stormfront, you go to the Christian Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. These are all white supremacists, but they are Christians. So don't say, oh no, these are not true Christians. No, these are Christians. Okay? So don't sit here, Bill, and tell me that no, only one faith does this, or only one group of religious people go to the extreme of wanting to harm people because of some insult. And again, this wasn't even an insult. This wasn't even meant to be an insult, and yet they still wanted to threaten his life. So don't tell me, no, only one faith does that. And again, this is not to justify Muslims who go to the extreme and want to harm people because of some picture or something like that. It's just to show you the hypocrisy and double standard of people like yourself, Bill. Here we see an article from the Chicago Tribune. It talks about the very play that I spoke about. The city is Union City, New Jersey. Okay, so the actor's name was Desi Arnaz Giles. Says he's starring in the role of his life, but the black actor's portrayal of Jesus Christ comes at the expense of ticket cancellations and death threats. And the actor said, look, I've led a complete life, Giles said Tuesday. Should somebody clip me, that's a slang for, take me out, kill me, assassinate me, during a performance, don't cry for me. Just rejoice because I am ready to go home. Okay? Here we have another article from the Lubbock Avalanche Journal talking about the same incident. It says, Black Jesus in play creates controversy. And again, here's the part that I want you to focus on, where it talks about the threats. It says, 4 groups canceled their reservations. Others wanted to reschedule to a show when a white actor played Jesus. After a couple of vague death threats were phoned into the theater, 2 church schools canceled out of fear for their safety of their students. Okay? So, again, don't sit here and tell me that it is only, one faith that does this. And even I found, and to my surprise, right, I found more articles. Now, see, the thing about this is, how come these articles, I bet you people who watch this video, you probably never heard of these incidents. I'm going to be almost certain that most of the people who watch this video, you will not have heard of any of these incidents. And why is that? Why is it that these incidents do not get coverage when Muslims, as the Muslims do? Is there an agenda? Right? To me, there's obviously a clear agenda to cover up. Sure, there's articles, but obviously, look, I found these articles. But these articles, these stories are clearly just small stories. They don't get much coverage. They're not played constantly over and over again. They're not plastered on your screen or on the news alerts and things like that. Yet you can find these stories. So no wonder people like Bill Maher and others sit there and say, oh, no other group does this. I found other articles. Let's take a look at other articles where people were violent over Jesus. Christian. Okay, here we see even more stories about violence over a portrayal of Jesus. Okay, here is from the New York Times. The article is entitled "Religious War Ignites Anew in France" by James Markham. And this was over this movie that came out years ago, many years ago, known as The Last Temptation of Christ. And some fundamentalist Christians in France became violent over the movie. Okay, so here's what we see. It says here in the third paragraph, it says, but after the arson attack on October 22nd on the St. Michael Cinema. In other words, they firebombed the theater that was playing this movie in which Jesus, The Last Temptation of Christ, was played, and the movie had scenes of where Jesus was allegedly being tempted. So there were sexual scenes of him being tempted, and so some Christians in France didn't like it, and so they firebombed the theater. Okay, so it says the police recalled that Mr. Anthony vowed in August that he and other militant Roman Catholics would use more than words to halt Martin Scorsese's film, and that the pugnacious politician had boasted that it would be an honor to go to jail to prevent such impiety and anti-Christian racism from being pervaded in France. Okay, the article goes on to say here in the fourth paragraph that with impressive rapidity, investigators have unraveled what they believe to be an underground network of Catholic fundamentalists linked to Mr. Anthony, who fanned out across France, making menacing telephone calls to theaters showing the Scorsese film, daubing them with the word blasphemy, setting off tear gas canisters and stink bombs, and assaulting film goers. So they assaulted people. They set off tear gas. They firebombed the theater. 9 people believed to be members of the band have been detained, and others are expected from the Sydney Morning Herald. Again, more violence because of and threats because of a movie in which Jesus. Now these movies were meant, would be considered offensive. Here is gay Jesus play blasted by Bishop. Now, of course, the makers of the film claim that they weren't attempting to insult, but of course, Christians saw this as offensive to make Jesus being portrayed as if he was gay. Nonetheless, again, there were threats, as you can see here in this paragraph here. It said the play which will open, again the article's old, but the play which will open at the New Theater in Newtown on February 7th as part of the Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras provoked protest and bomb threats in the U.S. Death threats were sent to playwright Terrence McNally, who draws parallels between the rejection he faced as a young gay man growing up in Texas and Christ's persecution. So again, here is protest. Here are bomb threats against the theater in the U.S. and death threats to the playwright Terrence McNally. So one more time, please don't sit here and tell me no, it doesn't happen. Here's another example: death threats for stomp on Jesus professor. This professor was doing a matter of fact, he says he's a Christian. He says he was doing a project on communication, and he wanted to show how people, I guess, can become comfortable just based on symbolism. So he wanted students to stomp or step on a piece of paper that had the name Jesus on it, to show them that those who felt comfortable about it, to prove his point that, look, it's just a piece of paper and all it has is just the name Jesus on it, and to show people, like, look, this shows you how people have been conditioned that, look, you're not even willing to step on the paper that just has a name on it, has his name on it. And so because of this, he received death threats. He received death threats, and the school that he works at, I believe it's Florida Atlantic University, they released him, they put him on leave because they were getting so many threats. Okay, you even had politicians getting involved. A letter was written by Florida Republican Governor Rick Scott. So again, this is what we talked about, that you guys are more dangerous because you have politicians who can back you and get behind you and get involved in things like this. But again, here is another example of threats of violence against people for whatever perception, whether they insulted Jesus or not. So again, please don't sit here and tell us that no, this does not happen. Okay, so again, his life was threatened, and he had to take leave. And he said, many times that he didn't stay at his house. because of he was worried that he might get attacked and things like this. For example, let's read from the article. It says, now let's look at what America's very own Taliban had to say when they contacted Poole. So here's right here. He said he has received hate mail and death threats, some of them coming in forms particularly hurtful to an African American. One of the threats said, I might find myself hanging from a tree, he said. He's had some days that he did not feel safe at home, and so he stayed somewhere else. Okay? Again, here's from the university. They had to let him go. On Florida Atlantic University announced that the threats against the professor had become so numerous that Poole has been placed on paid leave because his safety could not be assured on campus. Actor, I guess, comedian Russell Brand, he received death threats over some jokes that he made about Jesus when he was hosting some some MTV video award show. Again, he got threats. They said that, here's at the beginning of the article, it said that Russell Brand received death threats from religious right-wing groups after poking fun at Jesus Christ and the Jonas Brothers during his first stint as host of the MTV Video Music Awards. All right? We got one more. Jesus exhibit canceled after uproar. New York gallery inundated with angry calls ahead of display during Holy Week. This was a Jesus, as you can see here in the picture. Jesus, they had an exhibit where they made a Jesus out of chocolate. Okay, from what I understand, it wasn't meant to be insulting. They just made the Jesus out of chocolate. But again, Christians didn't like this, and so the main people were upset. They canceled the show. So there's so much for you guys in your claims of freedom of speech and things like that. But again, the show got shut down for the chocolate Jesus display, and I believe there also were some threats of violence as well. It says the hotel and the gallery were overrun Thursday with angry phone calls and emails about the exhibit. Semler said the calls included death threats over the work of artist Cosimo Cavallaro, who was described as disappointed by the decision to cancel the display. So see how when Muslims are insulted, or when they do stuff about the prophet, they say, oh, it's freedom of speech and you can't stifle freedom of speech. But here with this, they want to close down, right? They want to cancel the show. They want to cancel the exhibit. You see, they're sending death threats. So once again, Bill, don't sit here and tell me that, oh no, there's only one faith. No, sir, you are wrong.
There's only one faith that kills you or wants to kill you if you renounce the faith.
That's another claim that you make that's also untrue. You obviously have not done a good read of the Bible. When you make this claim that only one faith supposedly wants to threaten violence for renouncing the faith. Have you read the Bible, Bill? Right? From what I understand, you come from, although you don't practice the faith, but I understand that you come from a Jewish background, your father, right? I saw your movie. So, Bill, if you read in the Torah teaches that if you renounce the faith, if you leave the God of Israel and go to worship other gods, it teaches that the punishment for that is death, Bill.
Look here, Bill. Look, in Deuteronomy, this is from the Torah, chapter 13, verses 6 through 9. It says, if your very own brother, or your son or daughter, or the wife you love, or your closest friend secretly entices you, saying, let us go and worship other gods, gods that neither you nor your ancestors have known, gods of the peoples around you, whether near or far, from one end of the land to the other. Do not yield to them or listen to them. Show them no pity. Do not spare them or shield them. You must certainly put them to death. Your hand must be the first in putting them to death, and then the hands of all the people. So again, this shows your ignorance, Bill. Clearly, the claim that you're making, you obviously you haven't read the Torah. You haven't done enough research to sit here and make the claims that you're making. Let's also take a look at the New Testament and see. Here in the New Testament of the Christians, we read in Luke 19:27, but those enemies of mine who did not want me to be king over them, bring them here and kill them in front of me. Now, many Christians argue that this is going to be when Jesus returns. Okay, fine. Either way you look at it, there's going to come a point in Christian time. Well, I mean, they already did it, but now there's going to come another point in time when Jesus returns, according to Christian belief, that renouncing the faith will get you killed, as this verse clearly says. So the Christians say, yeah, this is only when Jesus returns. Okay, still, when he returns, Christianity has a teaching that when you renounce the faith or refuse to accept Jesus as king, the penalty is being put to death. So, Bill, please get your information correct when you make these bogus claims.
So to sit here and make these claims, Bill, showing that you just don't, you don't have enough information, you're not well informed on this subject to sit here and keep claiming that only one faith does this, i.e. talking about Islam.
There's only one religion that threatens violence and carries it out for things like that. Could they?
Again, you're wrong once again, Bill. To claim that only one faith threatens violence and carries it out is again showing that you are, either you're ignorant, Bill, or you are purposely ignoring the many other cases where other faiths threaten violence and have carried out. Glenn Greenwald pretty much took care of you when he was on your show. But let's go through that again. To make this claim, to try to, single out Islam as the only faith where supposedly claims of violence are made and carried out is again bogus, Bill. Bill, here in the United States, we have many members of our Congress. These are the people who make laws for our country and who, design our foreign policy, Bill. Many of them are part of what we call the Christian right, Bill. Many of these people sponsor conferences and political meetings and things and such where, where they actually proclaim openly that they are in support of Israel, for example. That they support Israel for various religious reasons, Bill. Okay? These people are more dangerous than any group that we know on the earth because they have the power of the United States government behind their beliefs. They have the power of the United States government behind their ideology, which they can use the United States to carry out their foreign policy based upon their Judeo-Christian beliefs, Bill. So to say that no, only one faith does that, this is totally nonsense. As Glenn Greenwald told you, are you totally oblivious to what happens in the West Bank and Gaza? When you always look at the numbers, right? Look at the numbers. There's always more Palestinians dead than there are Israelis, Bill. And of course, the Israelis are motivated by a religious belief.
Look here at this chart from the website ifamericans.org, which shows the numbers of casualties between Israelis and Palestinians. Alright? Here's the Israelis and Palestinians killed in the current violence. At least 1,104 Israelis compared to 6,829 Palestinians have been killed since September 2009. And as you see here, you see the chart. The red is the Palestinian numbers. As you can see, the chart shows that clearly the Palestinian numbers are always higher than the Israelis, yet we keep hearing this BS that the Israelis are somehow the victims. Right? Time after time, story after story, it's always portrayed that the Israelis are the victims. But look at the chart. Look at the red. The red is the Palestinian. And as you can see, it always far exceeds the Israelis. So for you to continue to sit here, Bill, and claim this claim of, no other faith does this, who carries out violence. Oh, come on, Bill. Get off it, please.
That God has given them this land, that they have the right to this land, and no one else has the right to this land. And we hear stories of the settlers attacking Muslims, attacking Palestinians.
Look here. Look how they attack the Muslims here, attacking the Muslim women here. Look at this punk. Look at this punk Israeli settler throwing wine or something on the Muslim woman. And again, look, more cowards, more punks attacking women, attacking the Muslim women. Look at these chump, punk-ass, devil cowards.
Vandalizing their property, sometimes killing them. And you sit here and claim only one religion does this? Come on, Bill, this is nonsense. I can show you other examples of Hindu violence in India against Christians, against Muslims, against other people. We hear about the incidents now going on in Burma against Muslims, Buddhists attacking Muslims. So to sit here and claim that it's only Islam, this tells me that you must have an agenda, Bill. You must have an anti-Islamic agenda to sit here and make this claim and not acknowledge that there are all these other incidents going on by other groups, not just Muslim. Okay? So when you keep making this claim that only one religion behaves differently, again, I don't know what to think. I don't know what to think. Are you just ignorant, or are you purposely ignoring all these other religions? But that are carrying, and more so than Islam, because again, for example, our right here in the United States, you can't deny that there are many people who are part of our government who clearly have a Judeo-Christian outlook, and who indeed try to make laws or foreign policy based upon their religious outlook. Bill, you can't deny that. So to say that the Muslim adherents are more dangerous, this is totally nonsense. Muslims don't have bases in every country or in a lot of countries around the world, Bill. Muslims don't have their aircraft carriers patrolling the oceans of the world, Bill. Muslim countries never have put their aircraft carriers off the shores of certain countries. We don't have bases in Muslims don't have bases in occupied lands, Bill. So to sit here and claim that they are the most dangerous, this is totally nonsense. Muslims are not the world's biggest weapons producers, Bill.
Look at the chart showing the biggest weapons exporters. The USA, Russia, Germany, China, UK, France. You see any Muslim countries on that list? Look here. Look at the arms trade. Look at the exporters in billions of dollars. Look who's number one. The USA, Russia, Germany, France, UK, China. Most of these countries are Western countries with the exception of China. You see any Muslim countries? So how is the Muslims the most dangerous? Come on, Bill, stop.
Muslims have never, dropped atomic bombs on anybody, Bill. Right? Muslims don't have drones that, with impunity, fly over foreign sovereign nations, Bill. So again, this just shows that you either have a clear bias or you're ignorant. I don't know which one to think. So your claims are just totally bogus, and there it is, Bill. Your information is wrong and incorrect.